See it to believe it. CJ Stroud, will he or won't he next week? We'll get into that next week. We're going to take a break, though, from that. Some news in the NFL, how it impacts the Texans, who's the biggest threat. We'll get into all that. Landry Locker, Cody Stutes with you. Take it away, Cody.
So the see it to believe it exercise came to me based off of the way DeMeco Ryans was just very casual about one of these players that's coming back from injury. We talked about him yesterday. It was a year ago. Christian Harris was one of the big guys you were maybe hoping to count on in a defense that was hoping to take the next level. Turns out 2024, horrible year for him. Terrible. So when asked about Christian Harris, DeMeco Ryans had this to say this week.
Christian is working hard, and he'll be ready to roll for training camp.
He'll be ready to roll, Landry. So this exercise kind of comes off of that. I got to see it to believe it on Christian Harris. Not only does he need to be ready to roll for training camp before I believe it, he's got to get through training camp. I mean, he has now spent the majority of his NFL career injured because he was hurt as a rookie. He had a slow start his second season, and he basically didn't play at all last year. So before there's any sort of counting on Christian Harris, believing in Christian Harris, or frankly, assuming Christian Harris is going to be on this roster, I got to see it to believe it with Christian Harris.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we've seen him, there's been even at the quote low points, there's been intrigue. It's just a matter of him being on the field. That's the good thing. And if he is going to be on the field, I think he's going to be a part of things. I think he's going to be rotational. I also think the interesting thing about Christian Harris is you're not depending on him. I think this defense is going to be really, really good with or without Christian Harris. So it's almost like icing on the cake with Christian Harris. But I bought the penny stock. Christian Harris penny stock this offseason. I think that Christian Harris is going to be a factor. I think that this linebacking group is intriguing. I think the manner in which they play defense is intriguing. So I'm buying it. And if DeMeco says he's going to be on the field, I think that means he's going to be on the field. DeMeco's secretive, but if he comes out and says he's going to be on the field, I look forward to seeing 48 stretching when training camp begins in a month and a half.
Yeah, that's the irony is the more definitive DeMeco Ryans is, the easier it is to believe him. And then when he's kind of secretive, it's harder to believe what he's saying. When it's, I don't know, been edited by a certain general manager about, hey, we should say this about the injury.
It's also interesting that he is willing to do this and he wouldn't commit to CJ Stroud. So he is willing to say when someone's going to be on the field, but he wouldn't quite commit to CJ Stroud throwing next week, which, by the way, did you see Shane Steichen? Shane Steichen just came out and said, yeah, Anthony Richardson has a hurt shoulder. He's not going to throw in minicamp, and there's
wasn't that hard, was it? I have a feeling we'll talk about that here in a minute. Your point about not relying on Harris is intriguing too, because a year ago, we kind of did think the Texans were going to have to rely on him because Azeez Al-Shire was coming in. He was new. Obviously, he was familiar with DeMeco Ryans, but he was new. Henry To'oTo'o had been whatever as a rookie. And then Harris was coming off of the really solid end of the season, the playoff success that he'd had. So a year ago, you did think you had to rely on him. And now he's kind of gravy. He's kind of bonus, especially if they're only going to play two linebackers majority of the time. Kind of becomes a little bit of a low pressure situation for him. But he's got to go out there and earn his spot. I'm not automatically writing 48 into the first roster projection. You know what I mean?
No, not at all. And it could be a platoon between him and To'oTo'o. So that's another thing. So we'll see what happens. He is in the contract year. So I don't want to say he's fighting for his NFL life. I think he's talented enough to where no matter what happens, he's going to find his way onto a roster in some way, shape, or form. But he needs a good year to maybe get a little bit of a higher signing bonus. Because if he has a year like he did last year, you're looking at a 1-year deal or maybe like a small 2-year type of deal for him. So I know you always like the contract year philosophy. I do too. And I also like that you're not depending on Christian Harris, because if you were, then I think we could strike the panic alarm.
I too, like the time frame of what happened as well, because he was working out in the park 2 days before training camp last year, and then he wasn't ready for training camp. I wonder if maybe he understands everything a little bit better, and also with less pressure, he maybe can ease into whatever his role is going to be for this team. So That's my see it to believe it, my first one. I got another one on defense, though. See it to believe it. Defensive tackle depth. Look, they got Mario Edwards, they got Sheldon Rankins, they got Foley Fatukasi, and I know that they like these veterans. I know that these guys have had solid moments for them. That's still a group that could get really old really fast. Like, we could show up in training camp and those guys would be getting bullied by a less than impressive interior offensive line. Fatukasi, big injury history, barely played for good portions of last year. Sheldon Rankins, he had an injury last year. He was solid, but that's 2 years ago for this defense. Mario Edwards started hot, wasn't very good when he came back from the suspension for whatever reason. And then the guys behind them, Tim Settle started hot, kind of cooled off. Tommy Togiai was a free agent in the middle of last football season. Kurt Heinisch was getting outplayed by Tommy Togiai at the end of last season. I got a little worry about these defensive tackles. It could be a problem position a little bit faster than I anticipated.
Yeah, good thing is they're surrounded by quality on the edge and really behind them as well. But this defensive tackle group, it kind of reminds me of last year's offensive line. It is what it is. There doesn't seem to be like a lot of upside. There doesn't seem to be like a lot of possibilities. You have some veterans that you feel okay about, but as far as upside, it's one of the least upside position groups. And we really kind of knew that. We wondered if maybe that would be a position that they would strike in the draft a little bit earlier than expected. They did not. And they brought back guys that we already know what they are. And maybe that's good for D'Amico because he knows what they are and we've seen what they do. But there's really there's very, very small upside on the defensive line and the defensive tackle depth.
Man, the thought process that I just kind of have to trust D'Amico Ryan's defensive tackle, it's worked for kind of 2 years now. I just wonder if, maybe the luck runs out there with some of these guys.
It's hard to, though, when you have the edge guys and the secondary that you have and the defensive coach. It's hard to imagine. If there was going to be a thin position, I would say this would be the one that you would probably want, though. Like if you had to say, because you're not going to have complete depth throughout your roster. It's kind of rare. You're going to have weak areas. In this defense, with where the elite talent is, I think this is almost the better area to have it. So I'm not intrigued by it, but it kind of is what it is when it comes to this D-line. I don't anticipate there being like some major breakout. I don't even know that there's really like a Tim Settle, like last year, and even a Mario Edwards, like where we didn't really see it coming. You know what these guys are. You really kind of have an idea of what their best looks like, I think. I mean, sure. you know what Sheldon Rankins' best is. I think we know what Tim Settle's best is. Mario Edwards, you can make a case his best was last year. So you kind of have an idea of what their best is. There's really no upside, and it's relatively known.
And again, it may just be as simple as it's a dirty work position. We just get a bunch of guys in there to do the dirty work. And if that works, again, more power to you for D'Amico Ryans. And just keeping an eye on that position, just in case. This one, Landry, I need to see it to believe it, is because I have PTPD. Do you know what PTPD is?
No.
I have post-traumatic Petrie disorder. But not because of Jalen Petrie last year, but because of what happened with Jalen Petrie after his first year. Looked like a pretty solid rookie, and then everybody bet on him and counted on him, and he wasn't very good his second season. I got to see it to believe it again on Kalen Bullock. Really good as a rookie. There's low expectations. That safety spot, you had sort of low expectations for the position going into last year. He was solid as a rookie. I'm not ready to just be like, woo, big time dominant safety situation. Like, I'm just not ready there yet for Kalen Bullock.
No, and I think it's dangerous to assume that the best is yet to come. Like, ideally, that's what you want, but we saw it with Petrie in year 2 where there was kind of a fall off, obviously a different system. We saw it with CJ last year where the best didn't necessarily happen for other reasons. He's going to be coached up. The good news, and this is kind of why I'm glad Jimmy Ward is still around, and there's a little bit of depth there. I don't know that Kalen Bullock is going to be an unquestioned 3-down guy. I think he's a good football player. But I feel 100% confident that Kamari Lassiter is going to be a really solid number 2 corner. Like maybe that's a mistake. Maybe this is one of the things that I get proven wrong about. But I'm with you on Bullock. There's talent there. He's a useful football player. It's clear what his strengths are, but just assuming that the best is yet to come it's a dangerous thing to do in football. And there were warning signs. I mean, some of the nerds, I know Sam of the 33rd team or whatever, Sam and Steve, their podcast.
Check the mic or rock the mic. What's their
whatever the hell it's called.
The
Sam
former
Monson.
PFF guys.
Yeah, the PFF guys, Sam Monson, the bald dude, Bobby Slowick's BFFs. But they think that Bullock is kind of an overvalued player at this point, and there's some data that they have to feel that way. So I will say, I'm with you. We got to see more from Bullock, and that's just based on what we've seen the last 2 years with second-year guys not necessarily performing better than they did the year before. It's hard to do, and it often happens. And if I were going to point to someone, I would definitely say Bullock would be the guy to look out for.
I mean, they're a good Kalen Bullock play away from keeping the Chargers from scoring a touchdown in the playoff game. I mean, he's the one that just kind of totally whiffed on McConkey and let him go 86 to the house. And I just wonder, after you see it a year, he's put a lot on tape. Are there elements of his game that could get attacked or exposed? The flip side of that is, though, I'm blindly buying into Kamari Lassiter being awesome this year.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to see it. I already believe it. Just like I believe Bigfoot used to exist, I believe Kamari Lassiter is going to be good. No see it to believe it there. All right, I've done 3 defensive ones. I'm going to flip over to the offense. I know he's been out there at right guard, and I know I thought this was a possibility. I'm just going to have to see it to believe it. Titus Howard's going to be a starter for this team. I know he's on the team because of the contract situation, and they've kind of basically guaranteed his spot. And he's got versatility, right tackle and guard at this point. But surely there's a little juice to Scruggs or Ed Ingram and to Fisher to push Titus Howard and at least make it a close competition. Surely.
I don't know about that. And it does seem like there's a motivated Titus Howard, at least just physically.
Looks good.
They moved him to the right side. So that seems like it's kind of a plan with Tomlinson. So if I had to bet, I would bet on Titus starting. Would I bet on him being a good starter? I would have to see that to believe it.
Sure.
So that would be my see it to believe it would be the Titus Howard thing. I will say, though, going back to the Bullock thing and kind of connecting it to Titus Howard, I think there's a much more healthy bromance when it comes to helping a guy sustain the level that he played at with Bullock and Kamari Lassiter. That's kind of the new bromance. It's kind of replaced Tunsil and Howard. And I do think that we'll probably see a new Titus Howard now instead of what we saw last year. I mean, it's at least going to be a hungry Titus Howard because he's
that kid in high school is sort of hanging out with the right crew. It's like, man, he's kind of hanging out with the wrong crew. And then he shows up he starts hanging out with the other kids. He dresses different. He's a better student. He's like a model citizen because he started hanging out with the right crew, the right people.
right. Yeah.
I like that. My final see it to believe it here, Landry. Brevin Jordan. I a year ago, the Brevin Jordan hype was building, and DeMeco Ryans was saying amazing things about him in OTAs. It was saying great things about him in training camp. Unfortunately, he has a knee injury. He misses almost all of last year. They signed him in the middle of the year to the extension. He's coming back. They didn't make some heavy investments in the tight end spot, but this is a guy that is sort of a pigeonholed tight end. He's not a do-it-all guy. He's a guy that you put out there and he's too physical for a DB and he's faster than a linebacker. I got to see that. I got to make sure the knee's okay before I'm just assuming that tight end room's Dalton Schultz and Cade Stover and Brevin Jordan and Luke Lachey.
Yeah, I think the legend of Brevin Jordan just kind of grew by him not having to step on the field and prove it, and seeing what went down with the tight ends last year with the positions. So last year there was hope. And then in a strange way, I don't know that he backs up kind of how the legend kind of grew last year, because people were watching Dalton Schultz whiff blocks and they were watching a lack of tight end production. You're seeing Irv Smith get snaps. They brought back Andrew Beck. And yeah, I mean, like, even when Andrew Beck came back, it was like, oh, thank God he's back. It's like, okay, like, if you're excited about Andrew Beck, your tight end position's not great. I think that kind of happened with Brevin Jordan. So we'll see how he fits in, what Brevin Jordan looks like and what his role is. But yeah, I'm not sure what Brevin Jordan, his role looks like on this squad, especially in this offense, especially with this new coach. Because the other thing is, as much as we talk about CJ Stroud and a new system and everything like that, Brevin Jordan's having to run a new system too. And it's a coach who's on record. He hadn't said a lot on record, but the one thing that he's been the most emphatic about is blocking is a non-negotiable. And I don't think Brevin Jordan's a great blocker. I think he's a better blocker. I think he's obviously a better blocker than Dalton Schultz, but he's not a great blocker. So I do want to see what Brevin Jordan looks like and how Nick Caley envisions him in this actual system.
Yeah, it's just I got to see him go out there, run around, see if the speed's similar, and then see how this offense can use whatever he can do at the tight end position. It's not crazy to say he's going to be on the roster, but let's get through a few weeks of training camp, maybe through that Vikings preseason game before we're like, all right, put 9 on the roster.
Yeah, we got to see that, no doubt.
A couple super chats, Landry. What position group do you monitor during minicamp? Well, tell me Tuesday, we're watching QBs first, right? See if it's 10 and 16 or if it's 7, 10 and 16.
Just the offensive line lining up is really what it looks like.
And if they do minicamp this year, similar to the way they did it last year, you're going to get some really good looks at some one-on-one matchups in both 7-on-7 and team. Like last year in minicamp, it was Kamari Lassiter versus Stephon Diggs, like right off the bat. It's like, okay, they're going to throw him to the fire. Let's see. And he was, step for step with Diggs down the field, and I was kind of looking around like, he's going to be pretty good, huh? Right off the bat. Okay. Just giving him that crack outside. So you get a lot of running back or a lot of wide receiver and cornerback matchup stuff that you can watch too. Stone alone 5 times. Salute to the Texans. Super bad brothers.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Oh man. Does that make Meltzer McLovin?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. A player that has not been at OTAs, I have to assume he's going to be at minicamp, is CJ Gardner-Johnson. While he hasn't been at OTAs, he has been on social media quite a bit, Landry. Have you seen this stuff from CJ Gardner-Johnson?
Yeah, it feels like he's just getting secondhand information, and he's kind of a guy who likes to motivate himself, but he said he was over Philadelphia, but I don't know that he's necessarily over.
So Howie Roseman has mentioned that CJ Gardner-Johnson had to get traded because of salary cap. Vic Fangio doubled down on that this week at Philadelphia OTAs. And then CJ Gardner-Johnson took to Instagram, just don't do them young guys like y'all did me. And he did the 100 emoji and the flex. Well, then he followed it up with, I was a test dummy for them. Now they could be like my scheme work, or did my skill set make it work? I had 0 issues. People had issues with me. So yeah, let the salary cap be the air quotes excuse.
Okay.
Not thrilled about his time ending in Philadelphia.
Well, I mean, would you be? I mean, you just won a Super Bowl, and you're probably like a top 4 favorite to win another Super Bowl.
Sure.
Best year of your career, probably. And then all of a sudden you get traded. So I mean, he is a human being. So I do understand CJ Gardner-Johnson if he's a little bit bitter with the way things went down. I will say though, like the young guys are on their rookie deals. There's talk that they might put Dejeuner at safety a little bit. I know he's playing nickel. I actually like the DBs that they drafted. I thought they did a good job there of getting guys that kind of fit in. And the other thing is, look, man, like it's one thing to get traded from the Texans a few years ago and call out the way that the front office functions and all that, and you probably get a little bit of support, but Philadelphia Eagles are kind of a marquee franchise right now, especially when it comes to making decisions in the draft, making decisions in free agency, and really just making overall personnel decisions. So I don't think you're really going to get too much backing when it comes to calling out the marquee example of GMing in Howie Roseman. So I understand both points of view, but I would probably lean towards Howie Roseman knows what he's doing.
So my question from this would be the salary cap situation with him that it is basically you can get rid of him for nothing next year. Isn't he going to kind of be like just the use him as much as you can for a year and then see you later guy for this team this year? Like, isn't he going to be in sort of a similar role with the Texans? Like, is he going to sign up for that? Is he on board with that?
I mean, that's what he is, whether he likes it or not. I mean, it's not like the Texans went out and said, man, we really got to have CJ Gardner-Johnson. Like they didn't give up much. They gave up Kenyon Green for him. Right. I mean, they gave up a guy that was probably going to get cut. So yeah, I think it's possible that CJ Gardner-Johnson's time with the Texans is short as well. And who knows, maybe like a year from now, he's talking crap about Nick Caserio. Like but that's just kind of the situation that he's in. It's his fourth team in a relatively short time. He played well. I think he's going to fit in well here, but yeah, I mean, it's not like this was just like a heavy type of investment. So it could be a short-term type of thing. But I understand where he's coming from. I would just kind of, when it comes to business, while I do support what he's saying, I think the Philadelphia Eagles know what the hell they're doing.
Is there any chance Jimmy Ward plays ahead of him? Any chance? I mean, that is a D'Amico guy through and through. D'Amico, when you asked him a couple of weeks ago, there's a role for Jimmy on this team. Boy, we're excited when Jimmy gets healthy. Is there a chance CJ Gardner-Johnson's a role player and not a starter?
I mean, even if it happened, it wouldn't happen all season. I mean, it would be yeah. I mean, even if it did happen, it wouldn't happen all season. But no, I mean, I probably wouldn't bet on that. But look, Jimmy's a good football player, man. He's a good football player. He's a good guy to have on your roster, especially if you've already paid for him and you got to see him out there. But yeah, I was kind of surprised. I will say, I'm kind of surprised that CJ Gardner-Johnson wasn't at these activities, though. Are you not? Like, he's in town, he's working out and stuff. I'm not sitting here saying it's like a big deal or anything like that, but I'll just say I was a little bit surprised by it.
Yeah, he for a guy that in his introductory press conference kind of talked about, yeah, I really want to take these guys to the next level, show them what it's like to go win a Super Bowl, what's necessary. And he talked at length about showing the young guys like working hard, working smarter, fine tuning, and then he's not there for some of the practices. And it's like, okay. So I guess when we have to show up, we'll show up.
Yeah.
There's no way to wager on this. If I could wager on it, I would sprinkle that CJ Gardner-Johnson does not finish the year with the Texans.
Doesn't finish the year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would put a little sprinkle on it.
So he ends up somewhere else this year.
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's likely, but if I could wager on it, I'd put a little Cody sprinkle on it.
Well, I mean, it's surprising-ish, but I mean, again, you traded Kenyon Green for him.
Yeah.
You know, you traded Kenyon Green for him. So Like, are you saying like a surprise cut?
No, just, like it's 12 weeks into this thing. It ain't working for him. It ain't working for us. See you later.
Okay. So you're talking like a 25-1 odd type of.
Yeah, I'm not.
Throw a $5 on it.
It's not even, maybe not even a $5. Maybe it's just like shake the piggy. I got it right here. Shake the piggy bank and just kind of plop that down on a CJ Gardner-Johnson doesn't finish the season for the Texans.
Okay.
Just a little, just something to pay attention to over the course of the year.
The other thing I will say, like the other element of it is, I mean, I don't know if it's like a big deal. I don't know if it's anything, but like Caserio and Howie Roseman are kind of tight, and I think he has like a lot of respect for him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sitting here saying that if CJ Gardner-Johnson's really awesome at football, that you're going to get rid of him because he says something about Howie Roseman, but I mean, kind of.
It's funny that the Eagles, well thought of organization, smart organization, the guy they got in the trade is rotating with the second team. And we're just kind of thinking, guy the Texans got automatic starter. He's going to be, he's saying he's going to be like one of the keys to taking him to the next level. And it's like,
yeah, there's a chance he was just going to get flat out cut.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not, again, we have to go back to, it's exciting because he's a fun guy to cover. There's a lot of good quotes, but I mean, this is a guy that was going to get cut. Like they got Makuba out of Texas. I think that's one of the more underrated players in the last draft. And I think he's going to be a hell of a player for the Eagles. But yeah, he was just going to get cut. So the investment is such to where I can see what you're saying. They also might have some PTSD from DBs just going online and talking crap. I'm going to have some PTSD with that.
Corner suite. Shout out. Also, I will say this as far as like, hey, like, why do you build culture if you don't have guys like CJ Gardner-Johnson to try to assimilate to the culture? Like, why do you have leadership and why do you have culture if you only add those guys to the room? So it's like, if you have a little worry about CJ Gardner-Johnson, but you also feel strongly about the locker room, especially over on defense with, Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, Derek Stingley, all the guys that you do have, you have culture so that guys who maybe don't fit the culture could then go to fit the culture. Like that's why you build good locker room culture and you trust guys that are leaders on your team.
Yeah, and that's why I've asked Aziz and I've asked Petrie during media availability, like how does that blend in with what you're trying to do? Because CJ Gardner-Johnson kind of comes across as someone who, I don't want to say thinks he has it all figured out, but it does feel like he's very alpha. And I'm not saying he's not going to buy into a culture, but I think he thinks that he is one of the guys that should lead a culture. And I just don't think that the Texans really desire someone to come into this locker room and change the way in which they do things, especially with what type of coach D'Amico Ryans is and how good he is at coaching that side of the rock.
Jeremiah with a super chat, Landry. I don't know where this comes from. $5 says Cody can beat up Landry. Why are we trying to figure this out? What's the use of this? There's make love, not war, Jeremiah. Make love, not war.
Burning money too.
It's like that, huh?
We can move on. It's burning money though.
I mean, neither one of us are walking away unscathed. Wait till I hit the Yokozuna in the corner on you.
Oh, God.
Bonsai! All right, finally, Landry. Is your shoulder okay?
My shoulder is awesome.
Okay. All right.
Good as ever.
My shoulder's doing all right. I just want, it's going around the AFC South here, this shoulder situation. Shane Steichen comes out and says Anthony Richardson's got a shoulder injury. He will not participate in minicamp next week. Don't think there was any teeth pulling or wondering or general soreness conversations from the head coach of the Colts. But Anthony Richardson, shoulder injury. He already was bad at throwing the football. Now he's got the shoulder injury. It's keeping him out of offseason activities. And they have a very clear challenger for his spot and maybe even now a replacement in Daniel Jones. I know you thought
Daniel Jones was already going to be the starter. So
that's what I was going to say. I knew you thought Daniel Jones was already going to beat him out.
Obviously. I mean, Daniel Jones is their starter. He was going to be no matter what. I guess if we want to localize this, which is what we always want to do here, this is kind of an injury that happened 2 years ago, and Richardson had surgery on it, and it's still bothering him. Now, I know he plays a lot different than CJ Stroud. It's a lot more reckless, although CJ Stroud does get beat up. But
he also had a lower level of talent at that specific thing.
Yeah, and his throwing motion seems to be not very shoulder friendly, the manner in which he throws the football. But I mean, shoulder injuries can kind of linger. So if we want to localize it, and we've seen it kind of linger with CJ Stroud now for damn near 4 years. But I mean, this is their backup quarterback. This is basically the equivalent of if Davis Mills wasn't throwing, we definitely wouldn't start shows with that. They had a fake quarterback competition to begin with, and now they probably get to drift away from that and just admit the guy that we brought in for $13 million the year after we benched this guy is likely going to be the starter. So not really a huge deal, if you ask me, because I always assumed that Daniel Jones was going to start in Indy.
DJ-led Colts or Jaguars bigger threat to the Texans?
I'll say the Jags. Yeah, that Liam Cohen feature, yes, in ESPN, I thought was really good. I'm starting to really buy into the legend of Liam Cohen. I think he's going to be a good coach. I also think, unlike Shane Steichen, while Trevor Lawrence is not the can't-miss prospect that we believed, I think he's good enough to – I mean, we've already seen him lead a team to the playoffs and win a playoff game. I think with the right coaching, Trevor Lawrence can lead a functional football team. I also think they got really good talent at wide receiver. So I would say the Jags are the bigger threat. I think right now you can get them at 3.5 to 1. Don't ask me why I know that, to win the division. That's just what I've heard.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me that the AFC South division winner odds are what they are when it's, we're not that far. Like, it's not like it's been total domination here. Like, this in the Buffalo Bills and the AFC East. So I also have another wager that I want to bet on at the Imaginary Sportsbook. And I'm telling the chat more than I'm telling you. I can guarantee Landry Locker's going to draft Adonai Mitchell in fantasy football this year.
No,
I can guarantee it.
No, I'm not.
I can guarantee it. That was your guy last year. It was an Anthony Richardson issue last year. It wasn't an Adonai Mitchell issue. And now with Daniel Jones, you're going to be all over Adonai Mitchell.
No, I'm not.
I've got you figured out.
No,
I've got you figured out.
I'm not. No, not happening.
All right, last thing for the folks. Pacers or Thunder tonight?
It's got to be the Thunder. It's just too high odds. Although if they do win, don't sleep on Rick Carlisle adjustments. I would say that the best bet for this is it goes 6+. I think you can get like 2.5 to 1. So yeah, we'll see what's going on there.
All right, that'll do it for SNL today. Landry, hit him with the catchphrase.
All right, appreciate y'all for coming through. Subscribe, like, right along. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together.
Eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.
All righty.